Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark's YouTube channel. We are going to be live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on YouTube and on Stadium for the entirety of the spring.
Nothing has changed in stores, I guess, that they've got another chance in year three that we don't know. Like there might be a chance for a three-peat. Like it's not out of the question. I guess that's the biggest headline I would have right now for UConn is a three-peat is attainable with Dan Hurley. And if Dan Hurley wins three straight, he is going to be the most miserable human being ever to be around, ever. Like I feel bad for Andrea Hurley. Having to deal with that ego if that dude wins three straight is going to be absolutely out of control. Like, think about it. He's never going to take out the trash again, ever. He's never going to do anything around the house. She's going to ask him for anything, and he's going to be like, look at my 3 rings. Like, it's going to – poor Andrea Hurley if this happens. That's who I feel.
There's absolutely zero chance there's zero possibility in my mind that Andrea Hurley doesn't run that household. So while I'll never be able to get him on the phone again. There's no doubt in my mind that he is going to have to he might have to do it 2 times a day if he wins that third title, just so she can kind of, flex her muscles a little bit. I will say this, fans, I think it's really interesting. And I mentioned this the other day on Top Dogs, but I think it's really interesting that UConn kind of said thanks, but no thanks to Kobe Bryant on his visit, right? I think they had an opportunity to get a commitment there, and he ended up going and visiting Kentucky. And I think that it says a lot about the way that staff values player development within their program, things that you talked about earlier, Jeff, when we had that earlier discussion. And I think that it's something where you can see a level of loyalty that he does have to guys that are already in that program. If Kobe Bryant commits, I don't know if you get Solo Ball back. I don't know if you get Jalen Stewart back. I don't know if you get Jaden Ross back. And I do think that it's something where it's clear that UConn values that within their program. We talked about this yesterday, Jeff, that you can kind of see like breakouts from different players every year that they've won the title, right? The last 2 years, whether it was Jordan Hawkins, whether it was Donovan Clingan, whether it was Tristan Newton, everybody kind of had their breakout year at some point. And I do think that being able to kind of build a program in a way where you can still rely on player development while supplementing the talent that you have in the portal and plug in the holes that you have is a really, really important thing to be able to do. And I don't think nobody is doing it better than UConn is right now. And I think that is the blueprint for what you want when it comes to being able to build a program that can be successful in the year of our Lord 2024 in college basketball.
So then, Rob, how would you compare that to a Kansas who has added Ryland Griffin?
I think to me, it's kind of stark to see what happened with the Kansas season last year and the injuries that they had when you kind of also think about how many people they lost in the portal in 2023, right? The number of guys that didn't come back for their sophomore or junior years, the number of players that left the program that had eligibility remaining. And I just, they ran into a situation where they didn't have depth. They were relying on freshmen that didn't really know what Bill Self wanted them to do. Injuries got the best of them in a year where UConn had injuries to their 2 guys that are projected as top 5 picks and still found a way to be able to play through that. And I think that it is important to be able to make sure that you maintain that element, right? Like the way that those 2 programs kind of played out, they're the last 2 teams to win national titles, and you kind of see the way that they're trending. It just, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, Jeff, but I just kind of, that is very hard for me to not look at those 2 and draw a bunch of conclusions that I probably shouldn't be drawing.
Yeah, listen, what Hurley's done is remarkable. I mean, and if Bill Self did learn something this past year, he learned roster construction and depth and shooters. And Hurley's, again, the formula. Maybe he shared the formula with Bill Self. I don't know. I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't be sharing the formula with anybody. But I think Bill Self has a team now that you look at it, not only on paper, but when we see it on the court. That was the thing. A year ago, we looked at it on paper. We were like, all right, you know what? This is a really good team. They got an elite point guard. They got one of the best bigs. They got KJ Adams and McCullough. they'll figure it out. And Timberlake's going to make shots. Well, Timberlake didn't make shots. They had no depth. And, Terrier Morris was kicked off the team. Marco can't shoot. Well, now he's fixed it. You learn from your mistakes. And, I think both these teams are going to have a chance to win the national title, barring some sort of catastrophic injury. I think they're both going to be there at the end.
Yeah, I would, and we'll talk about preseason top 25 in a second, Fana. There's no possible way that you can convince me that anybody other than Kansas should be the preseason number one team in college basketball right now. Maybe I'm just got my Bill Self blinders on. I'm literally wearing a shirt that says fog warning right now. So maybe I'm just sitting here as a guy that is completely biased, a completely biased media member that likes Bill Self in Kansas more than he likes the University of Kentucky or the University of Connecticut. The guy that just bleeds Jayhawk blue and has nothing to do with the UConn Huskies. But I mean, you give me DeJuan Harris, you give me Hunter Dickinson, you give me the guys that he added out of the portal, you give me Ryland Griffin as a shooter, and oh, by the way, KJ Adams is still maybe the most underrated player in all of college basketball. Like, what are we even talking about, man? They're loaded. They're loaded. Thanks for watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Make sure to hit that like button.